Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to today's episode of the Dairy Signal. We are going to be talking today about drones and agriculture. But before we get into today's topic, I just want to thank our national partners for being with us day in and day out to be able to provide programs like the Dairy Signal for all of you to be able to enjoy. I also want to remind our viewers today that in the bottom right-hand corner, there'll be three dots. Hit the three dots and it will prompt you to put your name in. But there we can get any and all of your questions answered here today. But today we have Derek Wawak, Dairy Forage Quality Expert at Alltech. And Derek, I will let you just do an introduction and we can get right into today's topic.
All right. Well, thank you for that. Able to hear me well?
You're breaking up just a little
All
bit
right.
for me, but otherwise we can hear you a little bit. Yep.
Okay, excellent. Well, yes, thank you for that brief introduction. As Caitlin mentioned, yeah, my name is Derek Wawak. Been with Alltech here for 15 years, kind of a forage quality specialist with them. And recently actually just spoke out with PDP out in Madison at their business conference back in March. So it'll be a very similar presentation to that, kind of speaking about what we're looking at, not only what we've used drones for agriculture here in the last handful of years, but maybe kind of what's the future, the big ideas of where drones could potentially be used here in animal agriculture. So where I want to start really is just the history of drones. I mean, as we all know, still a very new technology. The first drones were actually heavily just used for, military, entrepreneurs trying to invent something. And it wasn't until 1987 that actually a company in Japan named Yamaha invented the first agriculture drone, and it was solely used for crop monitoring. So pretty much taking large scale aerial pictures back in the late 80s. And it wasn't until then 2006 when the FAA first permitted its first commercial UAV, or an unmanned aerial vehicle, here in the United States. So you're talking only 20 years ago is when the first commercial permit for these drones or unmanned aerial aircrafts actually came to be. Then in 2010 was the first time we actually had a fully Wi-Fi or satellite smartphone capable UAV where it could be connected to a drone and flown through that phone. And then it wasn't until 2016 that they actually started to put kind of automation and, you could say, smart sensors for actually learning and avoidance, obstacle avoidance. So just within the last 10 years, these drones have just started to gain a lot of traction with the technology that they have. So where we go, oh, there we go. So kind of how I got involved with drones was years of working with forages, and as farms got bigger, tonnages came, in faster. We got a lot more out of the field, and especially for farms that said we're going to add on, but maybe not onto the feed pad, it became, well, can you help me do an inventory? The consultant, the nutritionist would come in and say, well, we kind of have a chopper number, we got a scale number, we don't know what we're losing. Can you take a pile like this and measure it, and then measure it accurately? Well, yeah, maybe we can do some densities. Maybe we can get some, lasers and tapes and paint markers and try to get a
Oh, Derek,
that letter
I
falls on one
believe.
side.
Oh, we might be losing you a little bit here, breaking up just a little bit.
Okay. Let's see, should I try switch over to maybe a different internet source here?
No worries. And while you do that, Derek, just to give you some extra time, we'll take a little break on talking about the drones. But just so that you can get your internet source figured out, I can do a little plug for PDP right now. We have some awesome programs coming up here. In June is our hoof care, and we are actually hosting our hoof care workshop in New York and one in Wisconsin as well. And those are taking place June 16th and 18th. But you can head over to our website to find out more about our hoof management workshop. Derek, how are things going?
Thing, I'm guessing the wind today is maybe playing a little bit of an issue here, but can you hear me good now?
Yes, I can hear you better.
Okay. Okay, well, let's try that one again. That's technology as we speak about it here.
Totally understand.
So yeah, getting back to that, it was just, yep, kind of trying to figure out how do we measure these accurate and get really spot on numbers for farms. And it came down to be, I ended up looking into some drone technology. It's a little over 10 years ago on some aerial mapping along with satellite imagery. And what happened was just the level of what we needed for accuracy wasn't there yet. It took about 2 years for some companies to re-engineer, develop some of these programs, and then about 8.5 years ago, got approached, found a program that was very, very accurate when it came to stockpile measurements in some different industries, heavily like the aggregate and mining industry. So worked with that company to kind of develop some things to figure out how do we use this technology here in the animal ag world. So how that kind of begun, it was just of us just old guesstimates and using chopper numbers or whatever the adjuster said, scales, I said earlier, lasers, eyeballs. I used to joke that working with a cloud service company based out of California in 2018 commercially using this technology. So how it works, it uses a cloud-based application that utilizes photogrammetry. So it's the use of imagery for measurements. So the simple way to explain that would be is you almost take, say every picture you take has so many pixels. Every some of these, especially when you have higher end cameras, you can get thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of pictures on each image. Every one pixels is considered a measurement. So if you're measuring what it was about down to a centimeter less, we're probably down millimeters now with current technology, just within the last 8 years of how much that's improved. So where we use this, how it's best use, we can volumize all known density of ingredients. So if we know and understand the dry matters in that, but we do know those can change with, especially on our piles, where it's best used, drive over piles, very clear edges, not a lot of debris or garbage.
sorry, everyone, for the technical difficulties, but I will pass it back over to Derek.
Yep. So kind of bringing it back here. So part of how I got involved within kind of drone usage was a lot of nutritionists, consultants, and farms would come up to me and go, how do we measure inventories accurately? As farms expanded, as feed pads almost didn't expand with farm growth in many occasions, we would get these piles that were very misshaped, became very tall, very steep sided, shaped, darn near like alphabet letters. And to measure those was always a challenge. So if we go to the next slide here, as we kind of got through the beginnings of it, of us looking back saying, well, we're going to guesstimate, we're going to look at chopper tonnages, we're going to look at adjuster numbers, scale weights, not understanding really shrinkage and loss. Do we use wheels, tapes, lasers, eyeball it? I used to always joke that, if Jerry's 6 feet tall, the pile's 3 Jerry's. But is that the same if there's a 3% grade slope all the way to the back and now it's 3.5 Jerry's, but we don't know that. So about 2015 began looking into a lot of this technology, saying, okay, can we take stuff from like the aggregate industry on these cloud-based systems, not only satellite imagery, but some of this new age drone stuff that was coming out in 2015 and coming up for 2016. But the technology and the accuracies just weren't there yet. And then about 2017, I actually got approached by a farm and a consultant in southern Minnesota. And he said, yeah, I think we maybe have something here. So after working with the company for a couple of years in 2018, they were finally able to make something accurate that was actually meant to measure forage piles, and then launched that commercially then for aerial volumizing in 2018. If you want to go to the next slide. So how this stuff works, it uses cloud-based applications. So it takes a drone flies a pattern over a feed pad. It utilizes photogrammetry, which is the use of imagery for measuring. How that works is it takes almost every pixel within that image. And as we know, every picture could have thousands, tens of thousands to hundreds of thousands of pixels in each image. We could take a couple hundred pictures over a feed pad. Within that image, there is location markers, so GPS coordinates, but those GPS coordinates also gave us elevations and contour mapping. That initially back 8-10 years ago was getting us measurements down to within 1 centimeter or less of accuracy. Nowadays, with current technology, we're probably down into the millimeters of accuracies. So we can read every little nook, cranny, contour, groove, slope, and grade around that pile and within the pile. So if you go to the next slide. So how does this work, but where really can it be used? So anything we know the density of, so the dry matter, the density of that ingredient, we can volumize that. The easiest ones to get the most accurate measurements on are drive over piles with clear edges. So no debris, no equipment, no garbage around the sides. Same goes with open-ended bunkers, open in the front, open in the back. Closed-ended bunkers or 3-sided bunkers, those we can still get really good accurate numbers depending on what the floor or the slope looks like. If we can fly them when they're empty, come back when they're full, that actually helps us make it even more accurate for future inventories. The downfalls with using drones to do this kind of stuff, though, is, one, it's going to be very weather related. So clear days, no major precipitation, winds. Most of these drones can fly up to 35 mile an hour winds. Sometimes I would question that, and some days it's perfectly fine. The other thing is a lot of times you do have to have, because according to the FAA, money could be exchanged in regards to the service of, they do require Part 107 pilot's license, which is much easier than it used to be 10 years ago, along with the cost of the equipment, the cost of the programs, and insuring everything too. The other challenge is, we talked about that poor weather conditions, especially fog and low cloud is another issue. Snow, as long as it's a light snow, it's not a big issue. Airports, as you can imagine, you cannot fly around airports, any sort of helipads, hospitals, military installations. We do see a lot in some places. And then wintertime for us up here in the north, once the snow hits, it's pretty much not going to fly anymore. We can fly a drone, it just won't be as accurate. And then if we do have a lot of debris, as mentioned earlier, if there's a lot of like tall grass, weeds, equipment, your stacked tires or your sidewalls along the edges, that can throw the numbers off. So if you want to go to the next slide. So what it kind of looks like is actually this. So when it's all said and done, so we actually take this program, we kind of map out the feed pad. It takes, however many pictures, could be 40, could be 80, could be 100 plus pictures. And then it actually stitches it together and creates these 3D models like you see on the left there. So that 3D model will give us a cubic volume back. And with the known density and dry matters, that's how we can figure out the tonnage then in the pile. So if you go to the next slide and then click it again, this is kind of what it looks like on a video, if we can get the video to pop up. So very almost computer game like, but we'll create these 3D images of these piles for every pile and bunker or pit that is being measured. So if you want to go to the next one. So why do we do this? I think the biggest thing was especially time. For us to run around and hand measure, especially larger piles or lots of small piles, could take hours, and then using geometry to calculate those back out. When we started doing this drone stuff, it was taking it down to minutes. You fly a farm in minutes, you download them in minutes, you got the reports back within minutes, typically, once you sit down and kind of annotate everything out. The other thing was accuracy. When we started realizing, when farms would tell you, well, we pack at a 3-to-1 slope, but a 2.8 to 1 little steeper, possibly added a few more tons, but your pack is a little less. The accuracy on this, we found time and time again, we're usually can tell you within the day or the week of you running out. If we monitor the forage pile, we find that usually we're within 1% of the actual tonnages from feed out. The biggest challenge though is post measurement is just the variances in moistures and densities. So if stuff gets drier as you feed through it, wetter as you feed through it, or the density has changed because you lost a packing tractor or it's coming in faster or slower, those are things we do have to take into account. Current monitoring is really great, especially this time of year, to see how many acres do I need to plant, or in the fall of how much can I be able to feed of what I was able to harvest, especially after the piles have shrunk. And then, yeah, that long-term planning, which is very big for not only the farm, the nutritionist, any of the consultants, for your crop planning, and then banks. And really, any of the financial backers have really caught on to this to say how accurate, because we know some of these piles nowadays, it's not hard to have $1+ million in corn silage sitting in just one pile, sometimes not even a big pile. And the last question I always get about this is are these costs really feasible for farm ownership? I can say probably not. The nice part is they're not difficult to use, but the cost between, $5,000-$10,000 for drones that die every 2-3 years. Programs vary, usually tens of thousands of dollars every year, plus thousands of dollars per flight fees for each pilot. For a farm to own it, to fly once or twice a year, I cannot imagine that being too feasible. So yeah, if we want to go to the next slide. So the other thing PDP was very interested about, which I do a few talks about here and there, is kind of what was now, which is what we've kind of looked at, but what is also in the future, pun intended, but the sky is the limit, I guess, if you want to say that about drones. If click the next slide. So kind of where are we at? Where could it be going? I'm sure a lot of us have seen sprayer drones out over the last, they've been getting more and more common over the last 5 years. Where I see that going in the future, there are certain countries right now, especially Southeastern Asian nations, where they call it swarm spraying. So what they do is they actually link up, which I think they can go in some countries right now up to 15 drones at one time. So sprayer drones, if that drone can spray in a 10 to 15 foot pattern, and you say just have 10 of them, you can have up to 150 feet of a sprayer operation that will never touch the ground. Flies over everything in just one pass. I don't think we have a piece of equipment that can spray 150 feet right now in the United States in one pass. They can do it if you were to link all those drones together. We do not have the laws in place in the United States yet to do that. I think we can do up to, I think we're at 3 heading to 6 that we can connect, I believe, in the next year or 2. So that is something I could see in the near future, if especially sprayer drones become a little more cost effective. Could an operation have 10 or 15 of them and go out and not have to buy a actual applicator anymore? The other thing we do see, which is already does exist, but I can believe will be getting to become more common practice, is they call it just scout and then spot spray. So instead of broadcasting everything, they actually send out scout drones. So each drone will have some sort of different sensor, reader, piece of equipment on it. It'll fly over a field and look for areas where, is there an area of a nitrogen deficiency? Is there an area of fungal contamination? Is there an area of some sort of insects or pests that are causing damage. And then that information will be actually linked back to a sprayer drone that will have that specific application in it that can say, well, here, this one's got a fungicide in it, this one's got an insecticide in it. So they're using these of almost one to go scout, one to go actually treat, which could be very neat technology. Instead of spraying everything in the field, you actually just spray what's needed. So we go to the next slide. So crop monitoring, this is already a very common practice, flying out, looking at yields, looking for especially RGB, very similar to what's in that picture. Can we use this technology to say, yes, we are going to find areas of deficiency or areas of pests or problems? Already used. The next piece of this is, you can see a lot of these pictures very AI generated, is how then does AI get linked into this to then take those so-called scout or monitoring drones and then figure out, okay, what's needed where. So do we even need to have somebody necessarily out there watching it, or is the computer going to do it just all? The other piece that is currently being looked at in research is actually pasture quality and yields. So not only pastures, but even maybe tonnages standing in like standing corn silage in field. It is not there yet. It is currently being trialed in some places. But can we take like a scout drone, actually fly across pasture land, drop it in certain places with an NIR sensor on it, actually look and read and say, okay, well, if the pasture's of X quality, with another scout drone going across the top to look at yield, there could be X amount of tons at this quality on that field. So not only for grazing capabilities, but could that be done too for, say, standing alfalfa? Could that be for corn silage? Things of that nature. If you want to go to the next slide. So kind of getting to the next big ideas of where things could be going, as we talk drone usage, herding and sorting. It is already being used out in rangeland, BLM land, way out west, of sending out scout drones to actually find cattle on range. Is that even a potential within the dairy industry of, do we need to go out and necessarily fetch cows anymore? Could there be a small scout drone that flies through a barn, poles, fans, and everything? They will have obstacle avoidance on it. And could they bring cows out of stalls and up into a parlor? So it is very possible it's being used in open range already. The other thing that some of those drones have the capability of is being used in the construction industry is infrastructure inspection. So as they bring in cows, can they be scanning the building almost in we call it similar to a ground capture? They are looking for fans that are broken, sprinklers that aren't working, or maybe aren't jetted correctly. Are there lights out? Are there issues with headlocks or cows still locked out? And can that be put into some of these cloud systems that can utilize AI to say, yes, fan number 3 in the west barn has been out, or these 3 sprinklers aren't getting any water into them, and have a program actually tell us that through something that's just buzzing through the barn. The other piece of that is there are several universities looking at, as we do work within the barn, but also moving cattle, sorting and herding, would that actually even reduce cow stress? Is it more stressful for a human or an ATV or a horse to go out, or a dog to go fetch cattle? Or could a drone do it in a, say, a reduced stress environment? So if you want to go to the next slide. So stocking, maybe within barns here in the north, probably not going to be the easiest, but feedlots, heifer lots, cattle out on range, especially out west. Is there a way to possibly count and just say, what's the number in a pen? And that technology exists. There's actually a company called Head Count Program. They do autonomous cattle counting. So they fly over pens in just a routine pattern. They can launch them from docks right in an office or a shop, go out, count cattle in every pen, come back, and then literally tell you. So this isn't cowboys going out or owners looking at animal units within each pen. A drone typically within under an hour can count hundreds of pens, not hundreds of head, hundreds of pens in 1 hour. So the only issue they found with the program so far is when they get heavily crowded, say, especially if flies are out or they're long feed bunks, watering areas, that in cattle of similar color, it does skew the numbers a little bit. But for larger operations, that is something where they haven't needed to go. If they do lose count for some reason, or have been sorting or missing, or gates got left open, they can use this technology and have numbers within minutes. If we go to the next slide. So speaking of, cattle out on range, just something kind of neat that drones are used for. So ones with actually thermal or infrared cameras on them, they're doing thermal detections. So drones, if they have the capability to legally fly at night, depending where they're located at, they take a thermal camera out and actually use this to capture especially animals or areas of large, vast range, figure out where these cows are. Within that, then can, instead of sending a herd, a group of cowboys out, can you just go out and sort cattle with a drone? Bringing that to the next point of is, are they going to be able to take that and say, well, can we actually look for future illnesses or heat detection? Um, Within that, the University of Kentucky and Colorado State is actually using drones right now to more or less fly around a cow in, say, a 360 pattern, take a bunch of images, put it into almost a body condition scoring system, and see, is the cow losing condition in certain places? And if it's got a thermal camera attached to it, is there things like vulval temps, rectal temps, and especially when you look around the eyes, the inner eyes or about the tear ducts can be a very close spot to look for fevers. So our nostrils are warm with the eye tear duct areas. If those are elevated compared to previous flights or for what's normal in that, say, range for that herd of cows, is there a problem with potential illness or heat? Yeah, if you want to go to the next one, and kind of the last, which is one of the biggest things I always get asked about, are birds, especially on dairy farms. Bird scaring. So there is already, well, I'd say there was a lot of companies over the last 5 years. These are probably the last three that are still out currently. I'm sure there's going to be more coming to market as we speak. The drone bird company, the one on top, that one is actually used heavily in the vineyard and fruit industries. Most of these are heavily fruit and, you could say, vineyard industries. So big out west in wine country and areas where there's a lot of berries and fruit trees. But Basque Aerospace and SkySense makes kind of that Falcon one down below. Those are launched from, say, an office or docking station, like the one in the bottom left. They fly a routine pattern. Some will have camera systems to detect certain types of birds. Some will also have sound boxes or speaker boxes like the one on top to hopefully make noises to scare more of the birds away. But technology is showing us that probably in the next couple of years, we can hopefully have one that mimics, that launches off a docking station stationed in a barn or on the edge of a barn or outside of an office. It will be able to fly autonomously on predetermined routes, scare birds away, and then actually land back and recharge itself. It is capable to buy right now if you've got about $80,000 to $120,000. But as that improves, they are telling me that should come down to maybe the price of a used vehicle in the near future. So if we move to the next, I know we had some technical difficulties here, but yeah, if anybody has questions, comments, that's how you can get a hold of me. And no, appreciate the invite to speak again on this.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Derek. I know I learned a lot. I have a few questions for you before we wrap up. What are some regulations should dairy producers understand before flying drones or even seeing drones on their property?
Yeah, flying, I mentioned it earlier. If you buy even just a cheap drone online or at a store, flying for recreational purposes is totally legal. You don't need a license. All you have to do is register that drone with the FAA. It's a $5 registration you do every 2 years, and you can fly it however you want to fly it. From a regulatory side, which scares a lot of farmers. I had one ask me about it yesterday. If we do see one flying around our farm, there is a lot of questions on activists, especially. We hear that a lot in California. Legally, you own only the ground. If you're in airspace, I'm not talking a millimeter off the ground, the FAA, our government, owns that. So when it comes down to being able to say, the comments always, well, can I shoot or hit a drone out of the sky if it's flying over my property? You cannot. It is protected by the FAA. It's a federal offense, especially if it's a commercially piloted drone by somebody who's licensed and registered. Where that sits then is if it is going to harm, it's going to damage property, harm you, or harm your animals, you then have the legal right to actually take it out of the sky. So there is caution to be advised to not necessarily just act immediately if you see a drone. probably best to more call it in and hope that the person is not properly registered or licensed, and then it is a federal offense. You shooting it out of the sky would be a larger offense than them just, yeah, we'll just say that.
I know it always is so surprising, but it's good for us as producers to definitely know that. But where can we go to learn more or see more of this technology in action?
Yeah, lots of, I mean, even just ask AI programs about what kind of drones they're doing. You'd be shocked at what's out there. University of Kentucky is doing a lot of AI, autonomous, a little bit of drone work along with Colorado State. They're probably the two universities on the forefront of some of this technology right now. And the rest of it, I would say most of these things, especially some of those bigger ideas that we talked about, there's a lot of tech-based companies just in trial phases at this point. So not talking too much about it. There's not really a drone egg base, say, event or conference at this time. But as this technology just keeps getting used more and more on a daily basis, I think we're going to see a lot more companies developing programs to especially help us dairy farmers out.
Yeah, sure. Where do you see this technology still falling short? I know you had mentioned kind of in the winter time you can't fly as much just with the snow and everything, and things aren't as accurate. But where else are you seeing drones falling short? I know you said a lot of benefits of drones right now, but obviously we've come a long way in the last 5 years, 10 years. But where are we going next in the next 5, 10 years?
Well, yeah, I mean, the sky's the limit with this technology. Our probably biggest holdback right now is regulatory issues of where most drones are manufactured. It's 90, I think it's 90 something percent of drones are produced right now in China. Many of those are looking at being outlawed here in the United States. Eventually, I don't think it's going to fully go through, as most first responders use most of that technology too. So to take away drones for search and rescue or fugitive capture, I don't think we're just going to disappear overnight. So, but because of that, the importing of them and being able to find them has been getting more and more difficult. So that is probably our biggest holdback within that UAV industry at this point in time. Of, if we need them, you better kind of have them in stock if it's a very specific one you need. But yeah, where the next piece of technology goes, I think, is we can put, just like cell phones, is we can take sensors and pieces of equipment and make them the size of the tip of a pencil, and put them into cameras or different sensor technology on some of these drones. I never thought you could fly an NIR machine on a drone until I saw it a couple of years ago. And when those used to be the bigger than giant suitcases, and now they can fit in the palm of your hand, and we can clamp them onto a drone to go fly all over the countryside. So it makes you just wonder what in 5, 10 years is it going to be something that's the fraction of the size of my cell phone is going to be on that drone and can do the same thing a laboratory can do.
Yeah, it's absolutely amazing the different sizes of drones. Like you said, you can have one that fits in the size of your palm or go as big as you'd honestly like. But you covered a lot of great information today, Derek, and we're running out of time here. But what is one takeaway you hope that listeners remember from today's conversation, especially if they're just starting to get their toes a little wet with the concept of drones and how to use them on their operations?
I think definitely be open to technology. I think we've all yelled at grandparents and parents and go, you got to get with the times. I will say I had plenty of farms I worked with through the years that never would have taken a number off of a drone and said that can't be accurate. I, I know from the hundreds of farms I fly every year, they love the technology. It's accurate, it's quick. Just when you see the next new thing, don't jump on it, but definitely learn a lot about it, because technology nowadays, especially with AI coming into these programs, it is going to change very fast.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Derek. We appreciate your time and your expertise this afternoon. And I just also want to thank our national partners again for being able to provide programs like the Dairy Signal day in and day out, and for partnering with professional dairy producers. I also want to just remind our audience that we have a lot of great programs coming up at Professional Dairy Producers. Hoof Care Management Workshop, June 16th and 18th, and our Professional Dairy Producers Accelerate program for agriculture interns, happening July 28th. So if you guys are interested on learning more about those programs, please head to our website at pdpw.org and look at the upcoming programs. Thank you again for everyone for tuning in, and we'll see you on Thursday on the Dairy Signal.